Today, I'm building and testing the smallest tanks in the entire world, with each one getting smaller and smaller than the last to find out just how far we can push the limits of LEGO. But first, we have to start with tank number 1. So for the first tank, we're gonna start with the biggest tank on this list, the R3 T20. Yep, this is the biggest tank on the list. And mamma mia, is this thing full of features, like an angled front, angled back, angled sides, and an angled bottom. Okay, on a more serious note, I used angled plates and bricks for the angles, bars to connect the wheels since it's 5 studs wide, and the swappable turret that allows you to turn it into the other variant, the R3 T106. And you might be wondering, what is this thing for? Well, it's actually made by the Italians as a troop transport, an IFV. Not a whole lot is known about the R3, but we'll just say it's for bullying heavy tanks in 6.0. But an interesting fact you might not have known about this tank is that it's actually amphibious, which means it can float in water, so let's test that real quick. Okay, so it's actually floating. See, LEGO, you don't need big pre-made pieces. Anyway, props to the Italians for making the least scary military vehicle. Okay, so that was the biggest tank on the list. So now it's time to move on to the next tank and go even smaller. But before we do that, I have gotten many comments asking for tutorials on how I build my tanks. So if you want to see how I build my tanks, then comment down below if you want me to share my super secret tricks that I use. Okay, for the next tank, I need to bust out some gray pieces and get building. Oh wow, that was so easy. I didn't even need the Infinity Stones. Bruh. This is actually the American M22 Locust light tank from World War II. And I built it using this bar piece to make the gun move up and down, clips to make the front slope, and bevel gears for the wheels. Yep, you know I gotta use these. But even at this scale, it's still too tall. Oh my gosh, I could not get it any shorter. So if you have any idea on how to make it more realistic, then please tell me in the comments. Anyway, this tank was basically designed to be transported on gliders to quickly assist the infantry with some relatively moderate firepower. I mean, a 37mm isn't gonna do much. But I think we all know that its real purpose is to sneak up behind German mains and take out their engines. Bro, this guy is so oblivious right now. This is definitely my favorite tank on this list because it just has so much of that gooditude to it. And since it's supposed to be transported by air, let's see if it can fit in this actual LEGO airplane that has a cargo hold. Come on, bro, seriously, you have one job. Okay, but actually, it doesn't fit, so that kind of sucks. And speaking of that, it's time to move on to the next smallest vehicle, which is the Russian equivalent of the M22, the ASU-57, which is actually the world's smallest tank destroyer. Yeah, this thing is super tiny. But I did manage to build it with room for minifigs, a detailed gun, and absolutely zero gun depression. Yeah, typical Russian tank. But like I said, this is basically made for the same purpose as the M22, to provide infantry with quick support with a powerful 57mm anti-tank gun. Except the ASU was meant to be dropped from an airplane and land on the battlefield. So to test that, I'm gonna drop it using a parachute. And I have done this before and the tank broke, but this time the tank is smaller and lighter, so hopefully it won't break. 3, 2, 1. Whee! Oh my gosh, did you see that? It actually worked like a real parachute, and it didn't break. The Russian bias is real. But still, the ASU-57 is really cool and small, but not as small as the next tank, the M274A5 Mule. Okay, technically this isn't a tank at all, but it still counts. And I built it with room for a minifig to sit and drive, and I used this steering wheel piece for the steering wheel, and this clip for the gear lever. Wow, such a cool build. Okay, so you might be thinking, what the heck? Because this thing literally looks like a wagon with a gun, and that's basically what it is. See, this was designed by the United States to basically be a smaller version of the Jeep, and be able to do practically any job, and this one in particular is extremely deadly because it has a TOW anti-tank missile attached to it. Yeah. And I even gave it spare missiles in the back. Dang, if this thing hid in the bushes, you would never see it. War Thunder, please add this to the tech tree right now. Also, the crew are completely unprotected in this tank. Like, there is no armor at all. Anyway, I'm not actually sure how to test this thing, so I guess let's go see if this thing can hide. Oh, yep, okay, so that's actually pretty lame. Okay, anyway, now it's time for the final and smallest tank on this list, which hopefully won't be that lame. But first, if you want to support these videos that I make, then please get some instructions from fistfulofstuds.com, and also comment down below if you'd want to see actual kits for these tanks that you would be able to buy. And finally, boom, here it is, the smallest tank. Now at first glance this might not actually look real because it's super small and doesn't have any guns, but get pranked because this is actually a remote controlled bomb. Yeah. Basically, during World War II, the Germans built this to destroy Allied tanks using explosives packed inside, and then sneakily drive up to the enemy and then boom. But honestly, this thing doesn't actually look that scary, and it actually looks super fun to play with. I mean, look at how much fun these guys are having. I want one, and I built it using these studs with holes in them for the wheels. But now, we gotta test this thing, so let's see how powerful the explosives inside are. Anyway, I hope y'all learned something new from this video. Please like the video so I can build a minifig scale P1000 rat. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll watch you in the next one.